Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. That's a great point. I think that's at the high school level. That's why we start with shot selection. Day one of the fall, we have a scale that we use, and everybody will understand. Instead of using terms like good, bad, great, hey, Johnny, that's not your shot. All those things, they're vague, and they mean different things for different players. And so we start with that, and I feel like that helps a lot with, even though we're playing fast, we're still shooting shots that we agree with as a team. We've discussed the parameters. So I think that helps a ton. And then I was thinking about your...
What's the scale look like, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no, that's good. I got it from PGC. I directed for them for a few years. And So start off with, in a group, what's a 10? You know, if it's scale 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what's a 10? And it's amazing, Coach. You'll get 5 different answers for a 10. It's a dunk, it's a layup, it's an open three, it's a free throw, all those things. And so I just say, raise your hand if you've ever missed a layup before. And they all miss it. No such thing as a 10. Let's take 10s off the table. And so once you establish that, then that means that there's not one shot out there that can't be missed. That's the best. There's no such thing. So then a 9. A 9 is a wide open layup. And we want 9s, guys. Like, we want to hunt for 9s. Skip 8 real quick. Then we go to 7s. 7 is a wide open jump shot within your range. That within your range is the difficult part. And I would imagine the amount of shooting games that you play, the amount of stuff that you chart, that's where, as coaches, I think we come in and we help them to know what a 7 is for them. So little Timmy's not shooting from 30 feet thinking, this is my 7. No, Timmy, you've never established with any of our shooting games that that's a 7 for you. So then we go back to the 8. 8 is contested layup. We still like 8s because you can get fouled. You know, clever finishers can still use their body well and finish on 8s. And then a 6 is really where we start this is what will lose us games. 6 is a contested jump shot. And you and I both know the quicker that they get their feet down, the quicker when leather touches their fingertips, they can get in their shooting motion. That line between 6 and 7 starts to blur. But again, that's where the art comes in. And maybe some of your better players, life's not fair. They get to shoot some 6s because you know what? They can make some 6s. 8s become 5s when the degree of difficulty is too high. It's not figure skating, so you don't really get more points for extra movement. So we're going to stay away from 5s and 6s, and we're going to hunt for 7s, 8s, and 9s. 4s are fourth grade shots. We don't deal with that. You know, 3s are those shots where would you bet $1,000 on it? If not, don't take that. Step backs, things like that. So that skill for me, Coach, has been it's been the best thing I feel like I've ever borrowed. Outside of scheme, outside of culture, it takes all of what's the most personal thing to a player? It's their shot. You know, so you tell a kid, don't take that. I mean, to take the amount of 3s that you need your guys believing that they can do amazing things. And so we take that type of not shot, bad shot, all that, we take it out and it takes the emotion out of it. So sorry for rambling. That's our shot scale.
No, this is great. I was just thinking about it, like, because obviously, like, you know, I spent a lot of time talking about our shot selection as well. And I was just like thinking about it and comparing and contrasting kind of to not necessarily a scale that we use, but when I just talk about what are the types of shots that we want. And you know, another thought that popped into my head was how we've tried to differentiate the you know, the various 3-point shots that you can take, right? Like that you can take a 3-point shot off of an inside out pass, that you could take a 3-point shot off of a lateral pass, that you could take a 3-point shot off the dribble, you know, that it could be contested or it could be more classified as open. that we have some guys on our team that actually, if you back them up to like where the NBA line was and you left them wide open, they would shoot better from that than a contested three at the arc. And other guys, it would be the opposite. They just can't back up that far. You could leave, they could have nobody around them, and they would be much better served shooting contested threes right at the line, and there are just so many things that go into, not all 3-point shots are created equal, I guess is one thing that I think about a lot.
No doubt. But you nailed it though, Coach, the fact that you know that about those players. They know that about themselves and you know that about them. So it comes down to having that shooting culture. The fact that this is what we do, this is what we talk about, and all of the drills, games, whatever you want to say that you do. And when I say charting, it's not that we actually write everything down. It's, hey, everybody come in. We just did Ray Allen. How many got one or more ladders in a row? Raise your hand. It's role identification. When we start to see those hands up and drop, when we hear those numbers again and again, guys know that what we would call level 7 shot, because we kind of map out the court for the guys, which is that NBA 3. When dudes can hit those in a row and then they do it at games, that's why we're not surprised. I'm not acting like, what in the world we're just celebrating, because the goal isn't to get a bucket every possession. That's obvious. Like winning a state championship is the goal of every season. Well, no crap, but that's not realistic for everybody, just like making every shot isn't realistic. But what is possible is getting a 7, 8, or a 9. And then that's with our training and with the mentality that you have and knowing the players. That's how I feel like you can have them understand and you understand that those threes are different. 7s aren't the same for everybody. But if it is a 7 for that guy, he can go 0 for 9 and he better shoot that next 7.
Sure. That's man, I could spend like all day just talking about shooting the basketball and the different types of shooters that we've had. We had one guy this year that was close to leading the country in 3-point field goals per game. And for his first 3 years at Grinnell, it didn't matter what type of three, anywhere over half court, any 3-point shot that he took, he was going 1 for 3. He was you could have 2 guys draped all over him, or he could be sitting there all day long just with all kinds of time. And it was fascinating for me to try to learn about him as a shooter. I think also kind of learn about his mentality. Like that always helps with a shooter, trying to just figure out what they are seeing or thinking or feeling. But it was odd, because you have some guys that like their percentage will just go exponentially up the more open that they are. And you have another guy like him that now this year he was a little bit different. This year he was making everything. He was shooting over 40%.
Why do you think? Why do you think because you would think obviously the as the increase in difficulty of that shot goes up, 2 guys on you, off balance. Anytime you put the ball on the floor, it does affect percentage a little bit. Like, what was the reason he was 1 for 3 in very different situations?
It's a fantastic question. It's like the same thing that I struggle with where, and I know I'm just completely bypassing your question and giving another example of something that I have not been able to put my finger on. It's like if I have a player that, if I gave him 10 shots, he's going to make like 4 of them, but if I only gave him 2 shots, he's going to go 0 for 2 way more, and he's not going to shoot 40% over the course of the season, and then there might be another guy that he can sit for 10 or 15 minutes straight. And if I put him in the game, there's a 50% chance that he's going to make that first wide open look, and like something about, how the warm-up process. I mean, I don't know if I could figure that out and know which guys are which, then it would obviously help make me a better coach.
No, I get that. That's the fun part though, is the fact that you can have a system and you can study and you can think you've got it figured out, but there are just going to be players that defy all of the stats and analytics and that don't make sense. Well, one thing that's kind of I've been getting into more and more over the years and is the mental side to shooting. I just think because at the high school level, there's an idea that as a freshman, sophomore, junior, you still have time to change up their shot a little bit, to change some mechanics, and they're not too far gone. I mean, Sean Marion makes it all the way through his career doing this because he was okay at it. And there's other things that he did so well, but I don't know. I've seen guys with good form struggle to ever be consistent. And then so at some point, if their preparation's good, it looks good, there's nothing that is with their offhand that's interfering with anything. And they're putting in the time, right? They have the right to be confident. It has to be what's going on between their ears. So I don't know what the percentage is either. I'm leaning towards it's 10% your form and what you do. It's 90%. Do you actually believe that the ball's going to go through? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that I agree. I agree. There's no doubt in my mind that confidence when shooting the basketball is the most important thing, and it's the reason why we end up making, I think, what would be so many quote bad shots is because guys are thinking that they just have to shoot it. It's a 12-second shot clock. We got to shoot it or Coach Dave is not going to be happy. And, when they're not thinking about whether it's going in or not. And I think the more you actually get people to not think about whether it's going in, and that's not saying that they don't care, because of course they care, but the more you can unlock their mind to get them to think about something other than whether it's going in or not, the more they're actually going to make the shot anyways.
Coach, that's so great. I just jotted down, you're right on the money. The expectation isn't for them to make the shot. Like it is, but that's not what they're thinking about. The expectation is that they shoot it. The expectation is that they get the rep up, that they take that. They're going to get in trouble if they don't shoot that shot. And you and I aren't resulting. We're not, it's NATO, right? We're not attached to the outcome. That's how you get dudes shooting audaciously. Like a parent comes up to me after the game and says, how do your guys all shoot with so much confidence? It's how we train and it's how we think. And then with you and I on the sidelines, it's how we respond to the great decision that they took about shooting the shot. It has nothing to do with them making it. Obviously, we cheer when they make it, like we're trying to win, but you get more makes if you. I just wrote that down. The expectation is that you shoot it.
Yeah. Well, and I think as it related to your scale too, like you're hunting the 7s, 8s, and 9s, and there might be nights where you're getting all 7, 8s, and 9s, and your 3-point percentage is incredibly low, and chances are you're not going to win that game. And I think as a coach, like, how do you respond? How do you move out of that? And I guess there are two ways. There's one to say that, like, are the shots actually 7s? Maybe we need to evaluate that over the course of time. But the other way to respond is if they are really 7s, 8s, and 9s, then we're pushing forward, and we have to believe that the law of averages are going to play out in our favor.
Coach, I love it. Like this is the stuff I was hoping to get into with you. Because sometimes I feel like I'm a really bad coach. And the reason I say that is, and maybe I am, but I feel like it because after a game, we went 6 for 44 from 3. And these are 32-minute games without a shot clock. So shooting 44, that's a pretty good clip. Like, that's not slow. I wish we could get up 70 to 80 to 90. I think you guys shot like all 3s in one game. This like that's a dream. Like, put up a faith number. And it's so, but we go 6 for 44. And I'm just sitting there. We lose by 3. We out-rebounded them. We had less turnovers. We shot 30 more shots, Coach, than they did.
Yeah.
Like, we should not lose by 3. We shot 6 for 44. And out of the 44, I think 40 of them were what I would call a 7. And not just in that moment. Oh, yeah, those are based on months and months of watching them shoot, playing games, seeing actual outcomes. And so my thought is, in that scenario, is it okay for me to just say, we need to make more shots and we're good?
I did that a little bit this year. I
But does it just seem like that's such a cop-out answer? Like there has to be more to it than that.
I know. I wonder how's the team respond when you just say, hey, we just need to make more shots.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean I think they probably agree. Of course they agree, and they already know that, really. And I just wondered, like what does that do going into the next game? Can I, when I say that to my team, and I said that same thing to my team a couple times this year where we had just horrific shooting halves or maybe games, I'm like, hey guys, we're getting good looks, we just need to make more. Like, what does that do to them psychologically? Is that in any way, shape, or form actually helping them make more shots in the second half? I don't know. I mean, they know the same thing that I do, that we need to make more shots, and so I'm just wondering, like, what is the best way to approach those scenarios? We actually had more times this year where we had a 2 for 21 3-point shooting half, or a 4 for 25, like more times this year and a half than we have in quite some time.
Did you felt like overall you had a great shooting team?
Felt like we had a great shooting team, though I felt like we did not have a great playmaking team, and so the shots that we were creating, while they were still a lot of 3-point shots, they weren't nearly as
That's
open.
a good point.
On target. Passing, I spent a ton of time working with my team on how I want them to pass the basketball to their shooter, and I want them to feather it to the shooting side chin with the seams if possible, the same way that you would take that ball behind you and line it up for a free throw, more than likely with the seams lined up. And if we can do that, heck, even on a fast break or on the fly, you have a skilled enough guard that has feel of the ball to be able to do that. It's just going to help incrementally increase the percentage, and so I think that I thought we had a really good individual shooters on our team, but we had a pretty low percentage by our standards, and trying to figure that part of it out has been kind of the off-season task.
I don't know. It just feels like we went through very similar seasons. I understand my level of play is really small, or it's a very different level, but I thought they ended up being the best shooting team we've ever had. We made 433. But which over the course of a high school season, I mean, there's not a lot of teams that do that. And so,
how many games?
37, I think.
Yeah.
So like pretty good per 433. We shot a ton. I think we definitely led the country in attempts, which that's a goal. Like in my opinion, if we're taking enough that we consider sevens, taking enough, then our offense is working. Like it's literally doing exactly what we wanted to do, and then it just comes back around to our training and our mentality. But I thought we would actually break 500, which in NFHS, National Federation of High Schools, I don't think there's been a high school team to ever do that. And so, like, I really thought so. It did come down to, I think it's your point. We have really good individual shooters, but not enough dudes in transition with double gaps that can really get deep enough into the world or that key area to pull people in. And then were we delivering passes on target and on time? I thought at time we missed on some opportunities, but maybe it just comes down to that.
Yeah. Our Grinnell system teams have always been at their best, and we've had the best team finishes when we've had, in really two different playing groups. We've had one group that's led by somebody who can just flat out score and has to be double teamed, and you got to bring help, and he's still going to be able to
Taylor.
score double teams. Jack Taylor, John Gropberg scored like 30 points a game all 4 years. Jack Taylor was unguardable in a one-on-one situation. He could. It doesn't mean he was going to score every time. It just meant he was going to create a 7, 8, or 9 shot.
And that's a difference. That's a difference. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, man. If you ever get mad at me for cutting you off, just tell me. I just get so excited when you say things that are like so good, and because that's a difference. It's not that your elite scorers necessarily have to score every time, but they just have to do something so dynamic, create enough space, and really look good doing it to where it demands the attention of more. Like they can engage more eyeballs towards them than some of those other dudes that just honestly, like they don't look good with the ball in their hand. They don't look good doing it. I don't know. I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah. And then in the opposite group, the group counter to somebody like Jack Taylor, we would have somebody that could score, but would prefer to pass. And I think the key in that is that they can score, right? Because if everything is spread out and teams are face guarding shooters, they still need to be able to make their defender pay in a way that they're definitely going to be averaging double figures for us. And finding that type of balance, like those types of guards, I don't know. That's just what has made us the most successful.
How much did you work on one-on-one scoring from your guards or playmakers in the paint? Because there are times where, like we run a five out dribble drive, but there is a little bit more of airing it out and deliberate cuts to create these double and triple gaps that we want. We can get the ball to the paint, no problem. Where I had a coach ask me, like, how would you guard yourselves, or how would you? That's always a good thought, right? How would I stop us? I'd play man, and I wouldn't help, and I would force us to have to score one-on-one, because if we're playing a team that's maybe a little bigger, more physical, more athletic, they just dare us to, you versus me, go at it. And I felt like we struggled with that. Do you play a lot of one-on-one or do skill work to help with those situations?
Play a lot of one-on-one. I think the natural tendency, right? Like you're trying to create pace. Coaches, I'm talking about pace, 12-second shot clock, getting the team up and down the floor. And of course, our guards, as soon as they go into the paint, they are rushing the finish. And it doesn't mean that they're like doing all this crazy stuff. It just means that they're taking a really quick shot and they're not giving themselves a chance to get fouled. They're not letting the play develop. They're not being a little bit more patient to say, hey, you know what? If the team is really extended, you actually have all sorts of time down there to spin and to get to the exact spot on the floor that you want to get to. And that's how teams defended us this year. They just stayed super extended, dared us to try to beat somebody off the dribble or to score in that one-on-one setting. And we kind of, we struggled, we really struggled. And so I think, again, it's hard, right? Because the natural tendency is just to rush the shot once you get in there, to think, especially when you're talking about pace so much, but having them understand that it can be awkward at first, but that you have a lot of time down there to get to the spot on the floor that you want to play from.
I tell our guys, you have 5 seconds in the paint. They look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, listen, if there's just a big goon post standing in there, yes, that's an easy 3-second call. But I think when you have the ball in your hand, you can live in there for a long time. I think they're very reluctant to either think about it or count. But to your point, you can tell them that and you can drill it. But majority of players, we get to the world, we get to the paint, we want a Brunson. Used to call it Barkley, but he's getting older now. But Brunson does a great job of that. Spin and turn like you did. Keep that ball alive. It's a live jump stop, a live stride stop. We're keeping it alive. We're going to redirect, but I just see them in such a big hurry, right? And I think that's a great opportunity for them to show off cleverness. Cleverness with your fakes, cleverness with your timing. But I think just a point of emphasis for me and our guards next year is giving them multiple counters and moves down there, not just saying, when you get in there, Brunson, and then try to score again. Okay. Like, these are high school players. I need to give them a lockup, an up and under, a quick turn, drop and extend. I got to give them more.
Yeah. Agreed completely. Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
This popped into my head a little bit earlier. I'm circling back. So if I gave you the choice right now, okay, your team's playing a game and you're going to take 100 shots. All right, okay. And every single one of these 100 shots is going to be a 7 on your scale. No 8s, no 9s, only 7s. Is that which are open jump shots? Yes.
Oh yeah. Within their range. Yep.
Open jump shots within their range. That's the only thing you're taking. No variance, no 6s and 5s. Are you taking that game plan and saying, I'll take that every single time?
Oh,
or are you saying, oh no, we need to get more?
More what?
Or higher?
Like 100? Or are you saying like more 8s and 9s or more? Yeah. Oh no. 7s is like, Coach, I'm so far on that side of with you that like I would imagine, to be a parent watching us play every night, the nights where it's not going in, they've got to second guess me a little bit. Like, they've got to think that he doesn't know what he's doing. Like,
get the ball inside.
Why are we doing so? Like, I've heard I've got a little conflict with parents, and a little, like, they'll say, do something different because we've just missed 8 in a row, but they're all 7s. Like, a 7 is a 7 is a 7. And so we're not time, score, momentum. I don't believe in that. I think freedom, confidence, the best shot available is going to come early on in the possession. The great defensive teams, the longer that you hold it. So to answer your question, if we shot 100 7s, Coach, I would be celebrating that so much. And does that make me a bad coach?
I don't know. You'd be taking no shots in the paint, though. That's what I'm.
Well, but now, obviously, like, to me, the idea that we are put up a number 3 better than 2, all of that, it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. Like, I've heard other coaches yell they only want to shoot 3s. When I hear that, I look at my guys and say we got them, because if they're going to play you so far out, they're going to close out so hard, and if our spacing is dangerous, that paint's wide open for us. So the odds of that ever happening is super low. But if it did, if they just decided we're going to sink in and you guys have at it, then we're going to break records that night. We're going to have nights like you've had. We had a team in our district that they just weren't very good. And I think we shot 43s in the first half, but we only made like 4 or 5. It was like really poor shooting. But I think it goes back to a question that we talked about earlier with, what do you do after a game or at halftime when you're getting the shots that you want and that you've talked about, planned for, trained for, but they're just not going in? I think that circles back to your culture. If you have a culture of celebration and enthusiasm, of moving forward, of not being attached to outcome, we don't result, then there's only one response to that, which is, I love watching you play. Keep doing what you're doing, in my opinion.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.